Hello everyone, this is Mr. T and I run the Building Dreams After School program. Today's activity is going to be an interesting one. We're going to basically take a lot of the lessons that we previously did and apply it into a different manner. Now if you remember the activity when we built catapults, we were using rubber bands to build kinetic energy in order to be able to shoot things long distance. This is going to be a similar device, but a different design, still using rubber bands in order to build up kinetic energy. Now you should have one of these panel boards that looks like this. Obviously there's several different pieces on here. I'll reference and show a picture of which piece that I'm referring to as we go along, that way no one gets lost. All the things that you'll need is one of these boards. There should be one of these cups, it has glue in it, a Q-tip, and several small rubber bands. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to punch out the board that's in the bottom your left corner, which will be this one right here. Now you notice on one edge of the board there is a small kind of half circle cutout. That's perfectly fine. We want to pull that piece off and it'll look something like this. This is going to be our base board. So once you get that popped out, pull out that little half moon tab, and that's step one. Easy enough. Step two, we are going to need the one that's directly above that one. It's going to have three pieces. There's going to be two outer pieces and one piece that looks kind of like a key. Go ahead and press that whole rectangle out just like that. And what you're going to need to do next is separate these three pieces. So we'll go ahead and pop that out. We have the key in the center and the outer two pieces. Now the way that this is going to work is we are going to want to put glue on the outer two pieces only. So let me go ahead and grab the camera, that way you can see how I do this. And it's really important that you put it in the right direction. You'll have to forgive my work table here, it's seen better days. What we're going to go ahead and do is this is our base piece. We want this piece facing to the left. And then we have the top piece that we just separated into three parts. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to glue these two pieces to this piece right here. And everything should line up properly to where you want everything just perfect. Just like this. When you go into place, this center piece should be able to slide. So the trick is to leave just a tiny little gap in between this piece and this piece. So we're going to glue this one first. Once it's glued into place, we'll slide it in and then we'll make sure there's a gap on the top side. That way hopefully this piece will be able to slide in and out. So I'll go ahead and open up my glue just like that. Again, making sure that the pieces are facing the right direction. The V should go from wider to skinny, going from left to right. I'm going to go ahead and take my Q-tip, just get some glue, and you can lift this up. And we're just going to spread that across the back side, just like that. Now watch how I do this placement. Again, I'm gluing the bottom side. The point is facing this open edge right here. And I'm going to have it slightly hanging over. Let's get rid of that piece. It's going to be slightly hanging over this edge right like that. We want this edge to be flush. We're going to press that down, that way it can stick. just like that, and we're gonna let that hang out for a moment. If you want, you can use the back side, the unused side of your Q-tip. If you have any glue that's kind of sticking over, you can use that to clean it up, or if you want to use your finger, you can always wash your hands after the fact. Be careful not to stick this in there immediately, because you'll end up running into problems with accidentally gluing this piece into place, and we don't want that. So go ahead and wait a few moments. Once this glue is dry, again, you can apply a little bit of pressure. We want it to be slightly hanging up past the edge. You can see where my glue line was right there. And we're going to go ahead and fast forward, that way this is dry. Okay, once you're pretty comfortable or confident that the glue is dry, or if you find something that you can get in there to clean that out, I kind of used my fingernail to get that out and wiped off my fingernail in the bathroom. What we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to place this centerpiece into place. And again, once it's into place, we're just going to offset it just ever so slightly. That way there's a little bit of a gap, just like that. And I will zoom in. You don't need anything extreme. We're just going to leave a little bit of a gap in there. That way it can move. So since this piece again is going to be facing or pointing towards the top, we're going to go ahead and flip it over. We're going to glue this back side here. So I'm going to grab my Q-tip with my glue. Make sure you spread that glue nice on there as evenly as possible. You don't need a huge amount of glue. The only reason why I filled the cup so much with glue is to make sure that if by chance the glue started to harden, depending upon when you start this project, if you stick your Q-tip in there deep enough, you're bound to find some good glue. So, okay, so I have it evenly spread onto the piece. So now what I'm going to do is, again, I left a gap on the bottom. What I want to do next is leave a little gap on top. So I'm going to carefully just place it. And again, we're going to make sure that we don't put it too close. We're going to leave a little bit of a gap. And then I'm going to begin to press down. It should be overhanging slightly over the top if we were to look at the back side of this. Just like that. We can see that there's a little bit of a gap just on top where this top edge is slightly hanging over the other. And again, we want this piece to be able to slide in and out like that. That's the secret to make this thing work, is this centerpiece needs to be able to shift like that. If you end up gluing these two top pieces too tight, it's not going to work. So take your time. If it's not sliding properly, you can make an adjustment before the glue sets. You can reposition it up a little bit farther if you wanted to. And then again, either use your Q-tip to wipe away the excess glue. And then you can go ahead and press that down to make sure it's into place. Just like that. And that is step 3. So now we have this piece in the position where we want it. The glue, for the most part, is pretty well dried. Again, we're going to double check this piece for fitment. Make sure that it fits in properly. It fits perfectly. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this piece and remove it. We don't want to have any accidents happen. We're going to go ahead and set this down, and we are going to grab our panel piece. The piece that you want next looks identical to the first piece, except it has this circle in the center. So go ahead and pop this whole square out, just like that. You want to remove this piece right here, and we want to remove this piece right there. Okay, so the way that this is going to work, we are going to put glue on this edge here and this edge here, and you want to line both of these up perfectly to where everything is flush on this end here and on this end here. So go ahead, get this piece ready, pop out that piece, pop out the center, set this down in a place where you can have it ready. Grab your Q-tip and slide your glue on to those two panels that you just glued into place, and only these two panels. So this is the first panel right here. The glue is starting to get a little bit tacky, but that's okay. We're just going to make sure that it's evenly spread, and it only needs to be on these two panels. Okay. The glue's making the cotton of my Q-tip a little bit weird. That's the first time I've ever seen it. Okay, once you have your glue on there, make sure it's evenly spread just like that. I'm going to hold it up that way you can see. Again, I just put glue here and here. Again, the crescent moon shape should line up with the other crescent moon shape. So go ahead and lay that down just like that. Make sure this end is flush. And you can use your finger to make sure everything is square. Once you're pretty happy with how square it is, go ahead and press down on the outside edges. We don't want to crush this, but we want to make sure everything is compact and in place. So again, I'm just pressing down on this outer edge and this outer edge. We want to make sure this edge is flush. That's good. And make sure this edge is flush. That's good. You can wait about a minute. Make sure that everything is staying together pretty well. And then we will be back with the next step. Okay, so now we have one solid piece, or should have a fairly solid piece. One thing that we are going to want to check again is we want to be able to slip this in between the two pieces. So again, you want to make sure that you don't push it down so tight that it won't fit in there. And the first time that you try to slip this in, it may give you a little bit of difficulty. But again, that's because the edges of the paper on the cardboard right there may give you a little bit of trouble. That's perfectly fine. Once you get it in there, make sure that it can slide all the way in and slide all the way out. You can always practice this action just in case if you do have a little bit of glue in there, it'll actually get it free. But we want to make sure this whole thing can slide just like that. If you can pull it out and put it in, you're doing a really good job. If by chance you're having trouble, again, it's just glue, so you should be able to pry this apart in order to be able to get it back in there. If you're able to get that piece in, that's no problem. We're just going to pull this out slightly. That way we don't have any accidents, but you want to make sure that can go all the way in and pull all the way out. So for the next step, you can either pull this all the way out if you're feeling comfortable with that. We're going to work on this section right here. The pieces that you need are going to be these three large circles. So go ahead and pop out the circle completely, or you can separate the whole box. But what I'll do is I'll just pop this whole circle out. Just like that. And you're going to need all three of these, and you're going to punch out the center. Now the way that this is going to work is this is actually supposed to be a loader. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to take three of these rings and glue those together, but you want to make sure this is perfectly above this hole. So what you can do is if you pop all three rings out first, you can do this one of two ways. You can either pop out the center holes and glue You can pop out the center holes and glue these 3 rings together just as they are. And to kind of show you what I mean, I have 3 rings right here. I'm going to take some glue, and again, you only need enough to get it to stick. And the reason why we're gluing it like this is to make sure we don't have any fall down into this hole right here. Just like that. So I have the glue on the ring. I'm going to stick one ring perfectly on top of the other. We want to make sure that the center is flush. You can go ahead and give it a little bit of a press. It doesn't need to be like forced and pressed down completely flat. We want this to stick up just a little bit. If some glue overhangs in the center, you can use your finger just to kind of spread that out just a little bit. But we want these pieces to be completely glued to each other. So I have 2 pieces glued right now. I'm going to take this 3rd piece and glue it right on top of there just like that. Spread the glue around. I have my glue into place. I'm going to grab my ring. Again, try to place it as flush as possible. We're going to lightly press down on it just to make sure everything sticks. And for that glue that's on the inside, you can either smooth that out with your finger, or you can smooth that out with your Q-tip. That way you don't get your fingers messy. I'm going to wash my hands after this, so I'm not really concerned about that. And again, I continue to press everything down, and everything should stick together just like that. So once you have this piece all glued together, we are going to glue this piece exactly positioned to where the hole you can see straight down. We want to make sure that it's even. You don't want to accidentally glue it offset like this, because if you glue it offset like that, we're not going to be able to load this thing. So make sure that the circle or the hole is perfectly positioned in the center just like this. You'll take some glue, and it doesn't matter which side you do it on. I'm going to glue mine on the top side, that way you can see. And again, we want to make sure that the glue is just on the top. I'm going to run my finger here, that way we don't have anything sticking over. I'm going to grab this piece, and I'm going to carefully make sure that it's positioned over the hole. And when I'm pretty confident that it's positioned, I'm going to go ahead and press down. Make any mistakes, I can make corrections of it as I go along. I can stick my finger in there just to double check to make sure that the hole isn't covered, because the tip of my finger is following the interior line of the hole. And once I'm certain that it's into place, I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure just to hold it into place. Again, we don't want to mash this thing down, because if we mash this down, we won't be able to get this key piece back in here. So just lightly press down, hold it into place, count to 30 seconds. Again, since cardboard is made of paper, and the fact that the cardboard is dry, it actually dries pretty quickly. Stick your finger or the back edge of your Q-tip in there one more time, just to make sure that there's no glue overhanging, and then that piece should be in there pretty solid. Okay, just a few more steps to go and we are done. So we have this piece together. We just glued our loader into place, and what we are going to do now is we're going to go ahead and insert this key into the crescent moon side. And if you want to make it easy for yourself, we're going to take this piece and you can kind of angle it in to where the paper won't get caught. Once you have that into place, you can just slide it in the rest of the way, just like that. Make sure you pull it back and forth a few times. You should be able to see the edge of it down here. We want to make sure that there isn't any glue to where we accidentally glue this thing into place. So if you're able to pull this back and forth a few times and it doesn't get stuck, you're in great position to continue. So we put the key inside here, and all that's left is we need kinetic energy for this to work. So what we are going to do is, you should have a few rubber bands inside of your bag. Now you only need 2, and I'm going to put like 50 rubber bands in there because I know occasionally these rubber bands do break. Some of them are cheaply made, but what we're going to do is we are going to put rubber bands on the outside edges of our little shooter here. And the way that this is going to work is similar to how we had the catapult set up. So with the rubber bands like this, we have this little key shape, and the way that the key shape is positioned, it's wide on this side and narrow on that side. So when we pull this back, it should force that key forward. And what it's going to do is, as it forces the key forward, there is this little window here, and you can see that slot right there. That slot is basically shoving whatever forward that we put in here. Well, what you're going to need is, you have these 4 little tabs, and these 4 little tabs are what you're going to load into your little shooter. So if you push out these 4 little tabs, they should fit down perfectly into that little hole. Now again, you want to make sure that you don't have any glue sticking out the sides, else you're going to run into problems here. But what I'm going to do is, I have my thing all loaded up with 4 little cardboard dots. You can push that down. You should push it down into the bottom layer. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, in order to get this to work, the rubber bands need to be on the outside edges where the wall is, and then these are slightly towards the inside. And the reason why you want these on the outside edges, if you have the rubber bands too close together here, it'll start to press this wall down, which will pinch onto your little key shape deal. So if you pull this back, they're on the outer edges, use your thumb, push that down, and they should fire just like that. And that is how you make a very easy, inexpensive cardboard shooter. If you're still having issues with it, one other thing that you can do for those small little circles, those circles you can press down. If they are thinner, they will shoot a little bit better. So if I pull it back after I press down that disc, they'll actually shoot out considerably faster. Make sure you don't aim at anybody with this. You may be able to find a plastic cup that you can try to shoot one of these at, but I thought this was a neat little fun gadget that you can make at home, and it doesn't really require much. Just a few pieces of cardboard, a little bit of time, 2 rubber bands, and some glue. Sorry. So I hope you learned something as we continued to learn more about kinetic energy, how energy is stored into some items such as rubber bands. Again, if we rethink how catapults were traditionally made, they used rope, similar to that what you would see on a bow, which uses string or cord. There's a lot of things that you can do if you're able to kind of just visualize and plan or design what it is that you're trying to achieve. There's a lot of simple machines that use simplistic designs. Something like this, I'm sure just with a little bit of free time and imagination, you never know, you could be the next millionaire inventing some sort of toy. I hope you enjoyed today's activity. This is Mr. T, and I'll see you next time.